am I the jerk for asking my partner to be quieter while gaming? So to start off this story, my boyfriend, 21-year-old male, plays online games a lot. I have never once asked him to keep the volume down mainly because how loud he is hasn't bothered me, but it is loud enough that you can hear it across the house. However, last night I had a horrible migraine on top of period cramps. Needless to say, I was miserable, stuck in bed with an ice pack on my head, an eye mask on my eyes, and a heat pack on my stomach, completely ill. Anybody who knows anything about migraines knows that loud noises and bright lights make them 10 times worse. He decided to hop on a game with his friends at about 11 p.m. I gave zero complaints to this until he got to a volume that started to hurt me. Once the match was over, I asked if he could be a little quieter because my head hurt, thinking nothing of it. He then stormed off without responding to me, just turned the game off, slammed his headset onto the charger, and then plopped into bed facing away from me. I was jarred by this because I didn't expect that kind of reaction. I kept talking to him, getting zero responses until finally he told me, "I'm angry and the last thing you need right now is me blowing up, so just drop it." I was just in shock because I didn't ask him to turn it off, and I wasn't mean about it, but he was angry at me over this, which I just couldn't fathom. After ruminating over all the thoughts in my head because he didn't feel the need to discuss what just happened, I just grabbed my stuff and went to the couch. I was just so angry that he was angry at me over asking him that. I tried sleeping on the couch, but everything just hurt so bad, and I just started sobbing because I was so upset by it all. After some time, I finally went back into the room and sobbed in there, which he did comfort me over even though he was very confused about it all. In the morning, he explained that his parents only ever told him to be quiet when he was having fun, and he just wasn't capable of controlling his volume without constantly hyper-focusing on how he is displaying himself, so it just ruined it for him. He said next time he would just ask me to go to another room, but I don't think when I'm ill, I should have to leave the comfort of my bed so he can scream on his games. He also said that he can't do anything right because getting angry isn't allowed, and not saying anything isn't allowed either. He has autism, which might be relevant. I can understand his perspective, but the fact that he even got angry at me in that state still baffles me. We have made up about it, but I'm still not over it. So, am I the asshole here for asking him to keep it down because I am genuinely at a loss? I'm starting to feel horrible just thinking about it again because my gut tells me no, but he just made it sound so convincing. You are not in the wrong here. He should have been comforting you when you were in so much pain instead of getting angry and threatening you. It's completely unreasonable to have a noisy gaming setup in the bedroom while someone is trying to sleep, let alone when they have a migraine. Relationships are about compromise, and it sounds like he doesn't take your feelings into account at all. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that she is making her fiancé miserable? I, a 21-year-old female, recently got into a heated argument with my friend, a 22-year-old female, regarding her engagement to her fiancé, a 30-year-old male. My friend Carrie and I have been on and off friends since middle school, but over the last 3 years, we have become really close, and I would consider her a best friend. I love her, but she is definitely one to be dramatic and overreactive. I have always thought that, but it has been overwhelmingly hard to handle for the past year. About a year into her relationship with her fiancé, Sean, she started to obsess over the idea of getting engaged. She would constantly ask friends and family if Sean had mentioned wanting to propose. She would go through his bags during every trip they took to see if he had a ring hidden somewhere. She would sob to Sean and anyone who would listen after any major holiday or event, wondering why he would not propose because it was the perfect opportunity. During a night out with Sean, Carrie and one of his friends, Carrie texted me, begging for me to talk to Sean privately about when he was going to propose. Knowing she would not drop it, I texted Sean and said at some point that night, I would need to talk to him. Eventually, I got him alone and explained that he did not need to tell me anything, but that Carrie wanted me to ask about his thoughts on engagement. He told me that he is going to propose to make her happy and that it will be about 2 months from when our conversation took place. Now, they are engaged, but the issues have not gone away. Carrie is obsessed with wedding planning, and Sean has shared with me that he feels overwhelmed by her even more so now. Sean is not allowed to go out for drinks once a week after work or play video games like he usually does because of the wedding. Yesterday, I was over at their shared place because Sean was golfing and Carrie did not want to be alone. At one point, she looked at his location, then pulled up a map of the golf course online and asked me to help her figure out what hole he was on. I told her it looked like he was on hole 8, which upset her because he had already been golfing for a while, and she assumed he would be close to done. She proceeded to call him 32 times in a row until he answered and then sobbed when he picked up and told him he needed to come home now because he had been out for too long. After their argument over the phone, I could not stop myself from the comment I made, which was, "Don't you think you're making Sean a little miserable?" This obviously did not go over well. She sobbed and yelled at me, saying I just did not understand how much she loves him. I left and we have not talked in a couple of days. I regret what I said, but I do not necessarily think I am wrong. My overall concern is that I have definitely become too involved in their relationship and have become the middleman. In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. Someone had better be gravely injured or dead if they make 30 calls in a row, That's just unhinged behavior. She doesn't love him, she's obsessed with him, and that's a huge red flag. This kind of controlling and emotionally manipulative behavior is concerning, and distance should be created to ensure Sean knows he has support when things inevitably go south. Am I the jerk for ignoring my sibling? Here's the issue. I, a 20-year-old female, have an older sister, a 29-year-old female, with whom I cannot get along. She lives in the same town as I do after moving back this past year. My sister and I have tried to be civil with each other, but it doesn't work. The current issue is that I ignored her when she was over at our parents' house the other day. I still live at home due to attending a college that's close by. I was doing tasks that my parents asked of me and had a few left by the time my sister and brother-in-law came by. I said hi to them and continued to finish what was asked of me. My sister apparently didn't like that I didn't drop everything and sit and talk to her when she first came in. As I finished the final thing I was doing, she confronted me, saying I've been ignoring her this whole time and that I clearly don't care about her and that she should have just stayed home. Note that my parents were home as well and had been talking to her. I calmly told her I was finishing what was asked of me so I didn't get behind later. She got mad and started yelling at me that I just ignore her and that I'm a selfish person who only cares about myself. She then proceeded to bring up that I always work and never take time for myself or family. I told her that I have 2 days off and use that time to get all my things done, so I stay pretty busy. She started criticizing me to make the time and stop ignoring her, and she said that my job isn't important because I can always find another one. She kept saying that our mom and dad can do what they asked me to do instead of asking me to do it. I walked off and went outside because she was beginning to get on my last nerve. I live with my parents rent-free, so if they ask me to do something for them or go somewhere, I'm going to do it. It's respect for them for letting me stay here until I find my own place. As for my job, if I neglect my duties as a nurse, I can get fired, have my certification stripped, and lose everything. I don't talk to my sister much because ever since we were little, it's been one thing after another with her. If it's not her way, hell breaks loose. My parents tolerate her to an extent, but recently when she tries to get me in trouble with them because I'm out with my friends and not answering her back, they say she's an adult, she has her own life, and I need to get my own. She is a stay-at-home mom with a baby on the way and has no one but her husband who can actually put up with her. You are not in the wrong here. She was visiting your mom and dad, not you. You continued to do the tasks your parents and landlord asked you to do. Her arguments that you work too much are silly. 95% of us have to work, and if you don't work, you don't get paid. It's not your job to entertain your bored, pregnant, stay-at-home mom sister. Am I the jerk for causing my team to quit? Long story short, I, a 35-year-old man, have been running a restaurant since 2020. The owner, Tom, who has another brand besides the one I initially worked at, was short, a general manager at the second highest grossing store in the company, and needed a GM to run it. I had a great assistant GM, Dan, a 22-year-old man who basically saved my job and the store from closing down when no one else would step up. He was around my age when I first started managing, and I asked him if he would be willing to step into the role. He hesitantly agreed under the condition that I would still be there for him as a mentor. I agreed since I love him like a brother. I knew from day one at the new store that I needed to change the model from quick service restaurant to full service by March. This wasn't possible with the current staff, and I told Tom that I could do it by June at the earliest. He agreed. Tom has a habit of being very ADHD and has a weird fixation on this one particular store because he lives down the street. For the next 6 months, I staffed the store to the best of my ability, explaining to each new hire the end goal and how there would be a certain level of chaos involved so they had an out if they weren't on board. The only employee I didn't hire was a bartender, Mallory, a 23-year-old woman and a relative of an employee at another of Tom's restaurants. He pitched her a hybrid QSR full-service model where she would be the only person taking tables and the rest of the staff would be support. Once we were finally staffed to sufficient levels, exactly on schedule, I started testing full service using our current employees, which coincided with a stint of Mallory being sick for a few days. When she came back, she was confused about what was going on and felt she had been cheated out of her position. When I realized she had been promised a different set of expectations, I told her she needed to speak with Tom about this. After our busiest day, my top manager at this store, Ellie, and I were told to fuck the labor in regards to the level of service that would be required. This is notable as she and I had been putting in insane hours. As a result, I hired more people to do jobs that I would otherwise have done myself, despite wanting to cut down on labor expenses. In addition, Ellie was promised a role as GM by Tom so that I could fulfill the vacant role of Director of Operations once we were at sufficient staff levels, and he has not followed through. Recently, Mallory spoke to Tom. According to her, Tom told her that full service was my idea. In the same week, he told Ellie and me to cut the labor due to sales. Since I found out about this, I almost walked out the door and never came back in anger. As I'm close with all my managers, we had a group hang to vent about everything at my behest. As a result, they've all decided to start looking for other jobs as they're so furious about how Ellie and I have been treated. This may destroy the company, but I feel like I had no choice but to be transparent with my team about how things are going. Am I the asshole? A mass exodus is inevitable when upper management flip-flops like that. Promising full service and then cutting labor due to sales is a recipe for disaster. It's no surprise that the whole team is looking for other jobs after being treated so poorly. Transparency with the team was the right move, even if it risks the company's stability. Am I the jerk for calling my friend's mother-in-law rich? This is my first post on Reddit ever, so bear with me please. This happened about a year ago, so I have had time to deal with the emotions that came with this. Some details may be forgotten. At the time, one of my best friends, Jay, who was 39 years old, was preparing for her wedding. She had asked me, also 39 years old, to be a bridesmaid. I was thrilled for her. She and I have been friends since middle school. We were approximately 12 years old when we met. Not going to lie, we had many ups and downs in our friendship. Now, before I start my story, you have to know that from the time we met until we lost touch for a bit after high school, she was your typical late 90s, 2000s goth chick. We are talking trip pants, white makeup, the works. I was not. I was a tomboy and band geek. I felt I knew my friend very well. Fast forward back to wedding planning. She had a maid of honor, A, who was 40 years old, and her two daughters, Anne, who was in her 20s, and Kay, who was approximately 15 years old, as bridesmaids as well. She was marrying into a rich family. We all went shopping, got all the dresses ordered, and were getting ready for the bachelorette party, getting hyped for this wedding. The mother-in-law reached out and started trying to plan the bridal shower. I am not good at planning these kinds of things, so I had already told them to just let me know what to do to help because it was for my friend, not me. I just wanted to see Jay happy. For the bridal shower, she talked about making macram flowers and putting them into teapots and teacups. Knowing my goth friend, this did not sound like something she would enjoy. She had already given up wearing a black wedding dress because her mother and mother-in-law had voiced that they did not want her to. They suggested she wear black to the reception if she wanted black. When I voiced my opinion on the macrame, I told them it was not something I personally would enjoy, but if they really thought she would, whatever. I then reached out to the daughter, Anne, about it. I told her I felt that the rich mother-in-law was trying to take over the bridal shower and make it something Jay would not like. I said it all through text, and I think my meaning got miscommunicated, and jumped all over me, fussing about me calling her mother-in-law that and saying I was wrong for that. She said Jay loved her mother-in-law and that I was basically an asshole. I tried to explain that I meant it as I felt she was trying to make this shower into something more for girly girls and something rich people would want to do. We all came from middle-class to lower-middle-class families, so none of this is stuff we would normally do. I tried apologizing and explaining myself. None of it helped. In the end, I was booted from the wedding party, and Jay and I are no longer friends. So am I the asshole for calling her future mother-in-law rich? Please be gentle on me. It was a lot to lose a friend of so long over one word. The plan seemed more quaint and old-fashioned rather than a reflection of economic status. Crafting is common across different financial backgrounds. It's not exclusive to any particular class. It's unfair to categorize people based on perceived wealth. The friend had already accepted that her wedding wouldn't be goth-themed, so there was no need to criticize. Am I the jerk for confronting a neighbor about her friend parking in front of our driveway? Our next-door neighbor is an older woman who does not own a car. Approximately twice a week, her friend comes to visit her and almost always parks her car on the street, blocking our driveway. Our neighbor actually has her own driveway, but this is used by her next-door neighbor on the other side. I've never asked why, but I guess they've come to an arrangement. To be clear, there is some parking available on the street. If our neighbor's friend would drive about 3 feet forward, she would not be blocking us in. There is no good reason for her not to do this. We have asked her friend not to do this before, once in person and once with a note left on the car, which we saw her read. Many more times, we have not said anything since we didn't need to go anywhere at that moment in time. However, my partner is a social worker who is in and out multiple times a day to do home visits, so our driveway is in constant use. Today, my partner came home and discovered she couldn't park on our driveway since it was blocked with this woman's car. She probably could have found a space on the street, but since this has been annoying us for months, I knocked on our neighbor's door and asked her friend to move her car. She was apologetic and moved it forward so that my partner could get in. On her way in, I told her, admittedly with some anger in my voice but definitely not raised or shouting, that if she did this again, we would take a picture of it and report it to our local council as we have asked her about this before, and it keeps happening. Our neighbor then came back with her friend, and she was livid. We have always been friendly with her before, but we argued for probably 3 or 4 minutes. The following points had made her angry. 1. Her friend had already apologized. This is true, but then she did it again. 2. This was the first time it had happened. This is false, although our neighbor didn't necessarily know about it. We were very clear during our argument that we have asked her before not to do it. 3. Her friend is going through a lot, and we have no idea. 4. We were not being neighborly. We didn't understand that everyone on this street gets along, and this kind of attitude is everything that's wrong with the world. She made the point that she has lived here for 20 years and we have only lived here for about 18 months. In my view, parking in front of someone else's parking space is not neighborly, since it's widely understood to be antisocial behavior. Please, let me know. You did nothing wrong here. There's no reason for her to keep blocking your driveway if it's so easy for her to move forward. It's not that hard to check how you're parked when you get out, and she's clearly not getting the message otherwise. Just have it towed next time. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.